In honor of how I normally do this, we'll start early because I see we got 50 people in the room. Thank you very much. And I'm glad everyone kind of remembered that I do these on Sundays from time to time, and hope to do them, from this point on like I used to, with the new studio setup and whatnot. So here we are, and it's good to see a lot of people here. Andrew Allen, is that a Viper permanent grin on your face? Yeah, when you accelerate in the Viper, your skin goes back, especially if it's like mine. So the fuse man, like a guy in a centrifuge. Hammond Egger, good morning from Marin County, California. Hello there. Glad to see you checking in. Lawrence Taylor, is this going to be live, or pre-recorded live? There's no such thing as pre-recorded live. It's either live or it's not. And this is, in fact, live, my friends. It's 12:53 Eastern time, according to 12:54 or 55. Jeez, all my clocks are off. I got 12:55 on my local clock here, although my cell phone's saying 54, so you have to trust me on that one. But it'd be kind of hard to fake that. Happy Sunday from Peter Woolworth. Thank you very much, my friend. Toby Gray, afternoon from Cardiff, Wales. So it's a little bit later over there as far as the numbers on the clock go. Carl Childers points out that the Honda was under the Viper. Now it's moved again. Yeah, and I did, by the way, I added the Viper. A gentleman had sent me this lovely blue Viper GT with the stripes, and I liked it a lot, but the Viper I actually bought it's red with no stripes. And so I actually had to get the red one to match the car that I own, of course, likewise with the shirt. So I'm going to move those two cars. I don't like the red and the green and the bronze. I think I'm going to switch the Daytona and the Tucker, but we'll see about that. Tiffany Patton, hello from Novi, Michigan. Thank you for checking in, my friend. I had high school compatriots who went to school with me from the Novi area. And I also lived over in the South Lyon area not too long ago, so I know that area very, very well. It's a beautiful area, although when I was in high school, a lot of it was still farmland. Now those farms have transmogrified into subdivisions. So Russell Wilhelmsen, love your videos. Well, thank you, and thank you for checking in. The fuse man, even a broken clock gives the right time twice a day, and possibly 4 times a day with daylight savings time, right? I'm not sure that works. Oh, Don Jackson, you do a video on the George Floyd case. There is so much that could be talked about there. I'm not sure if I could fit it all into one video, let alone one video that wouldn't cause half my channel to unsubscribe and the other half to think I'm doing a great job. I'm not sure, but I'll take a look at it. I might break it up into chunks, though, and talk about some aspects of it. Zach Bauer, great deal. Buy a Viper, get a model and a shirt. The perfect Steve deal. I will admit, I bought this shirt with my own money, and I also bought the Viper. A lot of stuff is donated to me. I'd say 95% of the T-shirts you see me wearing on the channel have been donated to me. I'm a double XL, and my address is at the end of every video. It's a P.O. box in Atlas, Michigan. But yeah, once in a while I see when I got to get for myself. So there you go. Johnny Knoxville, on my way home from Waffle House. Glad you checked in. I'm always curious when Johnny's going to show up. Johnny's often here early enough to give the room a warm-up, but appreciate it. Mike Gertz, I like your content niche. Yeah, some people think my niche is a little too undefined, but from time to time I like to talk about stuff that pops into my head. And what pops into my head can sometimes be a little disconcerting, I think, but I like to think it's entertaining. Josh Bunton, couldn't afford the Hennessy Viper. I'm not too crazy about the modified versions of those cars. Don't get me wrong. I understand high-performance cars are cool. I understand Hennessy does some great stuff. I remember Hennessy doing Corvettes way back in the day. But I wanted to get an untouched Viper, like it rolled off the showroom floor or the assembly line, and that's what I got. So the Viper I got is a 1999. Donald Norby just asked me. It's a second-generation Viper. It's got 5,000 to 200 miles on it as of yesterday. And it needs a little bit of work. I'm going to get new tires for it. The tires are original to the car, 20 years old. And so I'm going to get new tires and a couple other little tweaks to it. But once I get the tires on it, I'll take it out for a drive. Okay. Now, Kevin Myers wants to hear the outcome of the McNugget revisit. I put up a video where I drove my Viper up to Bad Axe, Michigan, drove around town, past my old radio station, and I went into the McDonald's and had McNuggets, which I've not had since 1982 or 83 when I got food poisoning from them, from that McDonald's. So in my mind, it was kind of like the bookend to that event. They were fine. I was fine. I got a lot of flack from people who said, Steve, you shouldn't be eating in your car. I pulled over and I ate in a parking lot. But I had to because the cameras were mounted on the car. And I couldn't eat and video without dismantling that. And I was worried if I moved the cameras, when I put it back together again, it would have made the second half of the video look wrong. So that was an editorial call I made in the field as my own producer. And it happens. Donald Norby, drive it to Talladega. I might. And I'll tell you why. One reason I'm considering it is every few years there's a car show near Talladega for the guys with the winged cars. And so if I go down there again, I would probably drive my Viper. The thing's a blast. I love driving it on the highway. You got to be careful. You got to be careful with the Viper on the highway because it's a 6-speed transmission, and the odometer is always down here, and the red line is up here at 6,000 RPM. I don't know if I've had it over 2,000 RPM yet, but like I said, I'm still just worried about the tires. I don't want to take it out someplace and have a tire blow on me while I'm going a little bit too fast for the conditions. Zach Bauer, how is Michigan doing? Lockdown, flood, and riots? Oh my. Well, the riots have been minimal here. We had some unrest in Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids on the west side of the state. There have been a lot of demonstrations and protests, but not as much rioting. So that's a good thing. The lockdown is ending for the most part. Most businesses are now allowed to reopen. They are encouraged to do the social distancing thing. But I went and got ice cream last night in the Viper. Ate outside the car, but I drove to the ice cream stand in the Viper. And they just had dots. They said, please stand on the dots, and the dots are 6 feet apart. But yeah. And restaurants in general can open, I believe, on Monday. But again, they want the social distancing and so on. So the lockdown is for all practical purposes over or ending. Ilya Alawa says, hello from Sweden. Without prejudice, UCC 1308. But you have to understand that you typing that into the chat box there indicates your consent, and therefore you've waived your without prejudice UCC 1308. It's a joke that 5 people are going to get. Dave Beeman, good to see Steve, and good to see you too, my friend. Thank you for checking in. Felix Gilboa, take that Viper to the skid school near Flint. Is there the only real testing grounds I know besides, Chrysler's got its proving grounds in Chelsea. They've also got a track in Auburn Hills. And I know that the Michigan State Police have a huge area dedicated to high-speed maneuvers. And if you drive by in the summertime, occasionally they got sprinklers going, firing water, and they got guys driving through it to simulate like what happens if you're driving out of control in a real wet conditions, which happens here in Michigan. So I've always been fascinated by that, maybe go through there and get my car washed while testing the skid. Brianna CC, who will service your Viper? Hopefully it won't need much service, but my friend Mark Lieberman from Nostalgic Motoring right there is the guy who found me the car. He's also got mechanics on his staff, and I've talked to him specifically about the car. He's done a few minor tweaks with his guys, but if it needed major work, there are shops around that specialize in Viper stuff. So I would take it to a specialty shop and have it worked on, but car's only got 5,200 miles on it. I'm not sure what kind of service it's going to need. Hopefully not much. But I'll get it done by Viper guys. I wouldn't take it to a just regular mechanic, and I'd not be inclined really to take it to even a Chrysler dealer, simply because the cars, especially a 20-year-old one, is uncommon enough where you want to get someone who knows what they're doing. MJW, good day from Australia, 3 a.m. Monday. You got to love the time changes and all that on the other side of the world. But thank you for checking in. I love all my friends in Australia and New Zealand. Donald Norby, no water on skid pads, recycled water. Well, I'm just talking about the different kinds of things I've seen, but I'm not familiar with any place that has a skid pad that will let me use it, or if I'm the person qualified to be using it. Ram 50 V8, hello, Steve. Greetings from Harrison, Arkansas. Well, thank you for checking in, my friend. I always appreciate that. Brianna CC, oil change, fluid change, flushes, etc. That stuff will all be stuff that my friend Mark can handle at Nostalgic Motoring with his mechanics. So we already double checked all that stuff. We've looked at all the hoses, all the belts, all the fluids. We've got records on everything. So the car is 99.99% sound. Like I said, the only real problem I've got right now is the tires, and it's got a couple tiny little issues that are so minor. But and this is going to be sacrilegious to some of the Viper guys in the audience, but I am tall. I am 6'2", and as a result of my tallness, or my height, as they might say, my head comes this close to the ceiling in the Viper, and that's after wrenching myself in there because it's kind of low to the ground, and so I'm going to get the seat lowered, and they make a kit for it. It's such a common conversion. And so you can actually have the seat lowered 2 inches. So I'm going to get the seat lowered. I'm going to hang on to all the old hardware. In fact, when I get the tires done, I'm also going to save the old tires just in case. If I ever go to sell the car somewhere down the road, I don't know if I will or not, but I'd be able to say, you know, I've got the car and I've got all the original stuff for it, including the original tires if you want them. So I'll hang on to them. I've got room to store them. But the seat thing is going to be one of those things where I like more headroom. That's all, and it's just one of those things. So, Island Knights first production model Viper sucked. Better now. Well, it didn't suck in that sense. It was a cool car, but the first Vipers came with no top. They were convertibles, you know, with a really flimsy top. They had no side windows. So you had to put curtains in there. And on the other hand, you know, it had side pipes and 425 horsepower, something like that. So it was a cool car, but you could only drive it under limited circumstances. And it was very, very primitive in a lot of ways. But my car is a second generation. Mine's the hard top, of course. It got a slight boost in power. The tailpipes now are at the back as opposed to side pipes on the side and things like that. My car does not have ABS, does not have anti-lock brakes. And in 2000 was when they started putting ABS, I believe it was. So, you know, I'd kind of like to have ABS, but, you know, what are you going to do? Travis Williamson Esquire says, cool Dan Gurney head bubble for your helmet. Yeah, if you look at the Viper from the front, I don't know if I can emphasize this, but you can see that there's an indentation between the passenger and the driver, but there's actually a little bump in the roof and a bump in the roof. And that's designed for more headroom, primarily so drivers could wear helmets. Because if I was wearing a helmet right now, my helmet would hit the roof because I'm too close to it, you know, to begin with. So, Al W., hello from Texas and the childhood home of J.R. Ewing. Who killed J.R.? Oh, boy. Brianna CC, ABS is overrated. I'm not sure if it's overrated, but I'll tell you right now, a lot of incompetent drivers out there have probably been saved by ABS kicking on when it did. People forget, how badly cars got out of control without ABS. By the way, I ran 10 miles this morning, so I have 2 of these. I might drink them both. We'll see. Mark K., take your Viper to the local Cars and Coffee. I'm going to. I'm bummed. I missed one yesterday. There's a bookstore on Woodward Avenue at 14 Mile Road. Anybody who hears my voice, who's in the area of southeastern Michigan, Saturday mornings, they do a Cars and Coffee at Pastiner's Bookstore. It's also called the AutoZone. And it's a bookstore. They sell books. They sell models. They sell posters. And I love those guys who run the store. I've done book signings there, 2 or 3 book signings. And so they do a Cars and Coffee every Saturday morning, and they'd stopped because of the coronavirus. And a friend of mine sent me a photograph yesterday morning at Cars and Coffee. He goes, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "I didn't know they started them again." So I will be at Cars and Coffee at Past Diners. I'm just saying this, so if you want to check out my Viper, swing on by. I might give some people rides. You never know. So Homie789 says, if you need lane departure warning, backup cameras, active cruise control, park assist, and all the other garbage, you shouldn't be on the road. Well, I agree with that. The funniest thing is, the oldest car I now own is my Viper. The newest car is a 2019 Ford Explorer. And the 2019 Ford Explorer is a cool car, but it's got backup cameras. It's got all kinds of warnings. It's got things that tells you when somebody's in your blind spot. And it's got a heated steering wheel. And even I admit that's overkill. Like, what? Like, I used it once just to see if it worked. But no, cars don't need those things. So, we'll see. Michael Santucci, good afternoon. And to you, my friend, thank you for checking in. Island Knights says, I bought a $129 kit to join the Illuminati basic package and learning how to hide in plain sight, etc. How many of you out there can see me? Who said that? Betty Anderson is missing the Canadian robot lady. Can you text her? I did text her. She said she'd be here, so she'll check in. Heated seats are a great option. The truck's got heated seats, and I use those occasionally also. But, Johnny Knoxville, heated seats are mandatory in the Midwest. Yeah, I don't know. I survived without them for many, many years. Ronald Knight, hey, Steve, San Antonio says, hi, 91 degrees here. Thank you. That's hot. It was about high 80s, early 90s yesterday. And I said early on purpose. But I'll have you know, I do keep in the studio a little thing that has the temperature and the humidity on it, because there is a furnace in here, but no air conditioning. And likewise, I was a little worried about how humid it might get in here, but the humidity seems okay and the temperature is fine. So, Rudy, you don't need ABS until you do. And I remember, and again, I'm showing my age, but when I was young, I had older brothers and other people who were helping me learn how to drive, and they'd actually say, let's go out and drive in the snow. Learn how to drive in the snow. And you go out to a parking lot and you drive around and see what it does when it slides. You learn to turn into the slide and take your foot off the gas. And, and one of the things that you'd practice doing was, pumping the brake as opposed to stomping on the brake. So it's a people don't understand how much ABS has changed that one thing. Bob Bong, hey, Steve Leto from sunny Benton Harbor, Michigan, 75 degrees. Of course, Benton Harbor is over here. And you got about what we've got. It's a nice, beautiful, pleasant day here in Michigan. Bart Ullman, come to Winnipeg in February when it's 40 minus Celsius and tell me that heated steering wheels and seats are a luxury. Yeah, well, you probably also need a block heater too, And again, there are places you need those things, but I took my 02 Explorer up north a couple years ago. It was like 17 degrees below zero outside. I walked out, hit the key, and it started right up. So, yeah, it took a little while to get up to temperature. But the Fuse Man, Steve Leto, getting used to the seatbelt on the other side in the Viper. No, I'm not. The seatbelt in that car starts over here and goes down to the door. And I don't know if it's me or what the problem is, but it hits my neck up here as opposed to down here. And that's what bothers me. But every single time I get in, I do this, and then I go, oh, and I do this, and I hope no one saw me. So, what else we got here? Brian Ekdahl, how much to replace the tires in the Viper? I haven't priced them yet. I don't know. I suspect it'll be a little more expensive than the swapping out the tires in the Explorer. Again, my good friend Mark Lieberman at Nostalgic Motoring is going to help me out with those. He's also a tire dealer. Kelly Moran, doing donuts in the snow-covered parking lot, fun. But you were learning how to drive in the snow. You weren't goofing off. You were learning. Johnny Knoxville, I bet the Viper tires will be around $1,600 for a set of 4. It sounds like a great deal. John Emery, Steve, glad to see you. Hey, and thank you for checking. I appreciate that. One of the things that I mentioned, I did a live stream a couple days ago as a test, and I jokingly apologized and said, but one of the problems is that with the coronavirus lockdown, I really need to have internet run into this studio. And I have internet out there, but not in here. And so I called Comcast. And they said, yeah, we can't do that until until the coronavirus is over. And I said, okay. So what I did is I literally got a 150-foot long cable and just dragged it over here. So if there's any buffering, it might be however long it takes electricity to travel through 150 feet of cable. Quentin James, Steve Lata, hi from Louisville, Kentucky. Thank you for checking in. John Emery beating the drum about asset forfeiture. Yeah, what's weird is this is why I love my audience. I was concerned the first time I did a video about civil asset forfeiture that no one would get it. I honestly thought people are going to go, Steve, it's too technical. Shut up, move on, do something funnier. And people get it, they understand it, and people are getting outraged, which is good. You need to get outraged about it. I'm outraged. So I'm really glad. And whenever I put up a video, I'm always thinking, is this one too much? Is this one too much? And it turns out no. Turns out people enjoy it. So I'm going to continue doing stories on it. We're making progress. But we got a long way to go in this one, my friends. J. Paul, hey, Steve, from beautiful Taylor, Michigan. Heard you got a new ride. Let's see a pic. Well, there's a model of it right there. Unfortunately, the only pictures that I can put up on camera right now would be on my cell phone, and they would be photographs like that right there. I don't know if that works out for you or not, but that's what the car looks like these days. But hey, thanks for checking in, my friend from Taylor. By the way, Taylor, Michigan, I hate to call you out like this. Taylor, Michigan is famous for a couple of things. Number one is they still have a Long John Silver's franchise, or at least they did the last time I was there. And I like Long John Silver's. I'll admit it. But number two, they have a district court there, and I'm pretty sure that district court is the one where I saw the list taped to the door of inappropriate attire. So there's a sign taped to the door and it said, all people appearing before the court. In other words, if you're going to be standing up appearing, it says appropriate attire necessary or required. And then it goes, the following are not appropriate. And it says, tank tops, cutoff pants. And I kid you not, it actually said bikinis, bikini tops, bikini bottoms. And they specified that. And you and I both know the only reason they put that on the list is somebody walked into court one day wearing a bathing suit, which, I mean, it's an entertaining thought, but there's a bunch of other stuff on the list also. And I've heard of judges who have some kind of wacky rules on how you dress, but the specific inclusion of the bikinis, tops and bottoms, I was like, wow, that's a new one. But I've seen some other crazy ones too. So Michael Santucci, the 3-piece fish and more with extra slaw. Believe it or not, I hate to say this, I like going there and getting the chicken planks because the way they do the chicken planks, unlike the chicken fingers from McDonald's, it's all white meat, but it's that special magical Long John Silver's breading and, of course, the crunchy stuff that you get too. So, blooming in place. I worked at the Taylor Courthouse summer job in high school. Cool. Did you ever see anybody dressed inappropriately there? D. Wood, hi, Steve. Like your trip to Bad Axe. Thank you. And that was a bit of an experiment. And I appreciate the fact that I've gotten a lot of feedback. I wanted to examine the idea about shooting a video while driving. I mean, I've seen people do it too, right? So I thought, okay, I'm going to mount a couple cameras in the car and just talk and hope the sound comes out good or well. And so I put 2 cameras, one's on the window facing me and one's on the windshield facing forward. And then I just talked, and the sound is okay. The sound is serviceable, but the sound is not perfect. And so I think I've figured out what I can do to fix the sound issues. But I'm going to shoot more videos because there's a bunch of scenic drives in Michigan that I know of that will be a lot of fun to do in my Viper and to film and describe while I'm doing them. Several of them are on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. But yeah, I mean, trust me, when I shoot them, they'll be very, very cool. And they'll also sound a little better. So I'm working on it. So, Johnny Knoxville, the only tires on tire rack for the Viper are track tires. Hoosiers and Toyos semi-slicks ranging from 375 to 450 each. Ooh. Papa needs a brand new set of tires. So, blooming in place. Saw so many inappropriate things there. Well, yeah, a lot of people who've got stories is people who work in courthouses always have got stories. I've mentioned these in videos before, but I've seen on 2 different occasions someone run. And I did a video about one where a guy came in and the judge said it's going to be $500 cash bond because I haven't got it. Judge goes, well, find somebody who does. He goes, I don't know anybody. The judge goes, that's not my problem. And as they were leading the people back out in the hallway, the guy bolted. And we saw him get chased and he got dragged back by bailiffs. So I mean, he didn't get that far. But another occasion, I don't like dabbling in things other than lemon law, but I actually had a very good friend of mine say, Steve, my son is in trouble and is having an issue in juvenile court. And he goes, can you handle it for me? And I'm like, yes, I guess so. But so I handle the thing in juvenile court for a friend of mine. And what I did worked absolutely well with the representation I gave this young person who was in juvenile court. While I was in juvenile court, I saw a kid, and I think his mom was there, get up and bolt out of it wasn't a courtroom, it's more like a hearing room. And the problem is that the juvenile court, the Hall of Justice in Detroit, it's like a fortress. And it's just as hard to get out of as it is to get into because there's bailiffs and cops and heavy duty doors everywhere. I think he made it about 50 feet. I mean, literally. I mean, it was that bad because there's one kid running down the hallway and a couple bailiffs see him coming. They grab him and drag him back. And I remember the hearing officer looking at the kid going, why'd you do that? So, yeah, weird stuff happens in court. I also saw a guy jump over the table and try to attack a judge in Oakland County Circuit Court. The different problem there is that the bench there is raised and all the judge got to do is lean back. And unless you can jump and climb really, really fast, you're not going to get to him before the bailiff does. Every single judge in that courthouse has got an Oakland County Sheriff's deputy right here. And that guy got body slammed to the ground so hard and so fast. I remember at the time going, I wonder why he did that. Like, what are you trying to do? Bob Bong, how was your experience with the Nuggets? I think I answered earlier, although I may have stopped before I finished the sentence. Everything was fine. Everything was fine. I survived and I lived to tell about it. So I've moved on. I'm not sure I'll be eating McNuggets in the future, but I'm not scared of them anymore. Buckskin Bill, why would you want anything but a track tire on a Viper? Well, I plan on driving the car, so I need a tire that can actually, get me around a little bit, Rad 6150 says A&Ws are still around. Yeah, in fact, a friend of mine, Mark Lieberman with Nostalgic Motors, posted yesterday. He goes, "Hey, everybody, we made it up to A&W today." And somebody goes, "Which car did you bring?" And he goes, "My Tucker." He went to an A&W in his Tucker. I didn't see photographs, but Mark's got a Tucker. So, for those of you who think that, it's I doubt that he ate in the Tucker, okay? But he took it to an A&W. So, DSS says, "Hey, Steve, I'm studying law for various reasons. The ones I know better than most police, judges, clerks, and even most of our sheriffs around here." And he mentions 18 USC 241 and 242. Yeah, the thing is, most people only know the laws involving exactly what they deal with most of the times. So if they don't deal, in fact, most cops never deal with 18 USC 241 until they get sued. So, Tom, Steve the Prophet, you mentioned in one of your videos that you were amazed at the price of Ford stock at $4. Now it's at $7.34, which is a 75% profit. Yes, it is. Yeah, it's interesting. Chrysler had a big issue a few years back. I'm talking about 80s or 90s. General Motors also once bottomed out and popped back up again. And I think that's before the bankruptcy. But with Ford, it's always a different question, because I was looking at that going, $4 a share. I mean, it's not going to zero out. It's not going to go penny stock on me, is it? And so I was thinking, like, I'm not a gambling man, but it seems to me that would be a decent investment. Ram 50 V8, what sauce did you use with your McNuggets? I went with the sweet and sour sauce, which appeared to be a good choice at that time. Dave Beddoes, A&W is as common as Starbucks in Canada. Are you saying it's common in Canada? Or I know there's 3 or 4 A&Ws. I also know there's 3 or 4 restaurants that used to be A&Ws that got rid of the franchise, just became like a local hamburger drive-up place, because you can recognize this. Many of them are still the same colors. Jim Adams, can tire dealers that sell nitrogen for passenger car tires be sued for making false claims? Well, it depends. How false are the claims? What are they saying? Nitrogen. I know what you're saying. It's funny because you see all kinds of wacky claims made about how useful it is to fill your tires with nitrogen. 90 knots. You're very entertaining to watch eating McNuggets. Yeah, but I'll tell you right now, it's probably the last time you'll see me eat on camera. Nobody actually looks good eating on camera. I was trying to be entertaining, but Patrick Sloan, did you graduate from Loyola in Chicago? My dad did back in '68. Love your videos. No, someone sent me in the shirt. So I wore it. I went to law school in Los Angeles, a place called Southwestern University School of Law, not far from Bullocks on Wilshire. The Bullocks in Wilshire no longer operates as a Bullocks. It's now also run by the school. And it's like a big campus now. The building I was in plus the Bullocks building. And now they've got a parking lot, which they didn't have much of one when I was there. So I had to park down the street and walk like an animal to law school. David Swan, my dad owned an A&W, peeled many potatoes in my youth. Wow. He was trying to save some money by not buying the store-bought stuff already pre-peeled. Tri-Fingers, airplane tires are filled with nitrogen. Is that for some other reason? Because remember, the airplane tires operate both at ground level and they're also taken way up into the atmosphere. And I wonder if that change has anything to do with that. But of course, airplane tires also see a whole different kind of use in car tires. So, Gypsy Salami, does your car still smell of French fries? No. And one of the things that's not visible on the video. There's one edit that video only has one. I know I'm flipping back and forth between the two cameras, but the timeline is real, meaning that it starts here and ends here. And there's only one edit in the entire video, and it's while I'm eating. And I did that to speed things up. But I also I did eat all 10 McNuggets, but I threw away most of the French fries, and I got that bag out of the car as soon as I could. So car is fine. Joel Kirschman, each and every one of your tires are filled with nitrogen to some extent, but it's the same extent that nitrogen is in the atmosphere, correct? Tim Hanley says airplanes do it because of the lack of pressure at altitude. That's what I was guessing, because the altitude change has got to do something with respect to that. Jay Paul says no one looks good after eating McDonald's, especially if you eat it too much. Oh. David Swan says the potatoes were not pre-done in the 1950s. Oh, that's going back there. I've seen, restaurant areas and how much stuff they can get if they want to come pre-prepared, So it's just a matter of whether they want to actually buy them pre-prepared or not. Yeah, Joel Kirschman, 78% of the atmosphere is nitrogen. There you go. And someone else says it too. Rudy asked for 78% nitrogen. It's free. Yes. Ubu says NASCAR uses nitrogen for tires as there is more predictable change in pressure with temperature. That's an interesting point. And again, keep in mind that the guys in NASCAR are literally trying to get fractional improvements in every aspect of the vehicle. Because if you look at like qualifying speeds, for instance, for the pole, the difference in speed between first place and 10th place is often such a small amount that every single little tiny thing you can do. And so, if you're at a race and the race lasts a couple hours, as they so often do, the air temperature can change, the track temperature can change. So yeah, if it makes it more predictable, you can bet that would help somebody. Buff Del Campo points out that airplane tires could freeze because of moisture in the air. Nitrogen is dry. Also, N1ROL, anonymous. Nitrogen is used in aviation and fuel tanks to keep vapors from reaching ignition from a spark. Interesting. DSS, is it a 5-speed or a 6-speed, your Viper, Steve? It is a 6. They're all 6s, at least, from the factory. So the Viper is always going to be a 10-cylinder, a V10 with a 6-speed manual transmission, rear-wheel drive. Engine there, drive out back. So Fred Stewart, I have 2 A&Ws near me. Great root beer, terrible food. The thing about A&W is more of the experience. I can't remember last time I ate at an actual branded A&W, but I wouldn't be surprised about that. J. Paul, Steve, there's only one Bell tire left giving nitrogen. It used to be their big thing. Max Homer, Simpson Power, says in California, when you pay your electric and gas bill at PGE with cash at their office, they say they require ID as a requirement. Why do you need your ID when you're paying a bill? I don't know. That's strange. And I wonder if they're worried about like money laundering or something. I don't know, because it couldn't be that much money either. I've never heard of that, but I've also seen people with stupid requirements. The old joke is, why does Radio Shack want your phone number? So there's those kinds of things you wonder about it. And the problem is utilities can do almost anything they want because they usually have a monopoly of some sort. Danny Beaupre, vanity plate names yet? Yes. But I haven't ordered it yet because at least last time I checked, you still could not order a vanity plate through the internet in Michigan. So once I've ordered it and gotten it, I will do a big reveal on it here. Rudy says it's a 7-speed with reverse. Yeah, no one counts reverse. We always assume a car's got reverse. So it's got 6 forward speeds. DSS, I love V8s. I can't imagine a V10. Yeah, a V10 is a really strange animal. I mean, it's such a strange thing. But basically, Chrysler, when they're looking at this vehicle, said, well, let's do something unusual. And they took, in essence, the geometry of one of their V8 engines and took it to Lamborghini, because Lamborghini at the time was either owned outright or controlled by Chrysler. And they asked the engine guys at Lamborghini, basically take these dimensions and add another bank to it, make it a V10. And then they make it out of aluminum. So it's an aluminum block V10. So it's off the chart in every which direction. Clint Richardson, does the Viper come with a full-size spare? No. It has a spare, and there's a problem. And I actually looked at this because the Viper has got really, really, it's not going to be as obvious here, but it's got really, really fat tires in the back and only fat tires in the front. Really fat and fat. And so, of course, if you carried a full-size spare, would you carry a full-size back or a full-size front? So they have a spare that will go on and get you someplace, but, not a full-size. So, Nicholas D., hello from Sweden. Thank you for checking in. Betty Anderson, does your vanity plate say lemon? No, and I'll tell you why. My concern is that people would look at it and go, oh, he's saying his car is a lemon. But I'm pretty sure somebody's already got that. Michael Hoffman, the nearest A&W to me is paired with a KFC. And there's a time when A&W, I forgot if they still do or not, but they had the same parent company as Kentucky, Long John Silver's. And I know there's an A&W, there used to be an A&W in Houghton, Michigan, and it was a double building. And half of it was an A&W, half was a Long John Silver's, but that business went out. So, J Pulse is a good plate from you. Be LMN, LEMN, like Lemon Law. That wouldn't be bad. I got a good one though. I came up with a good one that is available. So I actually looked into seeing if it's available, and it is. And I'll order it. Robert Hart, if you see someone with an Indiana vanity plate that says explore, that's me. Cool plate. Where do you explore? The Fuse Man says, I found people in the USA who say turbine. Military guys talking about the M1A1 power plant. It's possible. I can tell you that I interviewed one of the men who worked on the transition of basically a bunch of the guys who worked at Chrysler on the turbine-powered cars were on the program to build the power plant for the M1A1. And I interviewed one of the highest ranking guys in that program. And if I said turbine to him, he would have slapped me. So, but, and Toby Kenobi says you could go LMN law. Yeah, I could, but I'm not so concerned about the lemon aspect of my life coming through. FFEJ Uadio says lemonade, Lemonnaid. A friend of mine who's an attorney in my field actually calls himself Lemonade in terms of his websites. I wouldn't do that. And like I said before, somebody out there's already got Leto. So LW, is that a Barago model? I've one in the same blue-white paint scheme made in Italy. Are you referring to this? Because yes, it is. It appears to be Barago. I never noticed the brand name, but yes. So here's the blue and white scheme. I like the blue and white. I like the red a little bit better, but blue and white's certainly serviceable. Joel Miller, do you have any comments about the state Supreme Court ruling on the Menke barbershop case? Yeah. Oh, Donald Fletchinger, law dog. It's not a bad one. I have not studied the barbershop case, and I have not done a video on it. I might, but I know last I saw it, it was winding its way through the system, and I hate to do videos before they get to the end for fear that I'll put the video out and then it'll get flipped on appeal and I'll look stupid. So, Jim Adams, definitely not lemon, because people would get the wrong idea. And I agree, that's the problem. The Fuse Man, blue cars have lower resale value. Who told you that? That video still gets a lot of traction, and it's funny because I read the comments on my channel out of order. In other words, they just pop up, and I'll read a comment before knowing what video it goes to. And I'll get somebody like, I've got a blue car. And I'm like, why are you telling me that? Oh, that's right. That video put up 3 years ago. Dave Beddoes, I worked for Radio Shack in the 80s, and our job requirement included getting over 90% names and addresses on receipts for marketing. We would write fake names in the blank ones. That's funny. That's funny. Oh, I remember the last time I went to Radio Shack, and I got a phone, and I forgot which. It may have been this phone, but no, it wasn't this phone, but it was a couple phones back, and it had just a round plug that you stick your headphones into, right? And I run a lot, so I like to listen to music. And this is back a few years ago, so that the technology wasn't really good with Bluetooth yet. And I had a set of earbuds that had a straight jack on it. And I wanted to get a jack that came out and went like an L. Amazon sells them, but I thought, well, there's a Radio Shack right nearby. I'll go there. I go into Radio Shack, and the first thing is, it's basically a Sprint franchise. I think it's Sprint, but it's some phone company, maybe an AT&T. But so you walk in, there's a huge display of cell phones. So I walk around the cell phone display, and I find a guy, the guy wearing the white shirt with the short sleeves and the pocket protector is obviously the manager, rethinking a lot of his life choices. And I said, I'm curious. I go, I need a set of headphones, earbuds I can wear when I'm running, but I need to have the jack needs to be an L as opposed to a straight. And the guy goes, we don't have those. I go, do you have the adapter? They make an adapter, and he goes, we don't have those either. And I'm going, what do you guys sell here? Apparently cell phones, but but I remember going on to Amazon and ordering. I forgot if I got the adapter or the headphones. It had the bent thing on it. But I always assumed that if you needed weird connectors and plugs and adapters, that Radio Shack was it. So DePaul 31, yes, Sprint. That's when Radio Shack started going downhill. I think you mean the downhill slope accelerated. Is that what you're saying? Clint Richardson, how was the maple syrup withdrawals? The day I did the maple syrup challenge, I learned a very valuable lesson. Never drink a gallon of it in one sitting. Okay, let's just say that right there. Jose Rodriguez, man, I started DJing with my first sound system was Radio Shack, using albums back in the 70s and some Curtis Mathis speakers. Now I'm with JBLs and EVs. There was a time when Radio Shack actually had a lot of stuff, but the problem with Radio Shack is that a lot of what they were selling was low margin, inexpensive stuff. And like I said, I drove there hoping to buy something. Probably cost like $2, $3. If they had it, they didn't have it, And so no one's going to go, gee, I want to get a cell phone. I'll go to Radio Shack. So a lot of bad a lot of bad things going on there. The fuse, man, the maple syrup, all it did was it gave me a stomach ache. It made me nauseous. At the exact same time, I had a sugar buzz where I actually think my brain was vibrating, okay? A very, very high frequency vibration. And all I remember is I did a live stream a half hour later. And I remember putting my elbow down like this and actually like partly leaning because I'm going, I might just fall over or something. And about a half hour later, after I started the live stream, I started feeling a little better. But there was a period of time where I was like, I'm about to call in sick, but the problem is no one else does these but me. So DePaul 31, you eating the chicken nuggets reminded me of you dunking waffles in maple syrup. Yeah, eating on camera, I don't think it's a good thing for me, but Jim Adams, lawyer up, is probably already taken in Michigan. Yeah, probably. But like I said, I'm not going to get a plate to advertise that I'm an attorney. I don't want strangers to hate me. But I came up with something that's good, so we'll get to that. Boxwood Green, you need a model of a Shelby GT350 and Candy Apple Red on your shelf. I need lots of stuff on my shelves. It's just a question of what gets here. Zach Bowers says, be careful, Steve. Don't talk bad about maple syrup. You thought Big Pizza had long arms. Don't get me started on big maple syrup. Yeah, that's the thing. There's a whole maple syrup industry that probably pulls all the strings, especially in Canada, right? I watched one of your vids right before you went live. DSS, I still want to do an interview if you'll ever give me one. An interview for what? I've gotten a bunch of interview requests lately, but some of them pan out, some of them don't. I just got contacted, for instance, by somebody who produces a television show for a major cable network. They said they want to actually pay to have me fly somewhere and do some work. And I we'll see if it pans out or not. Jose Rodriguez, do all your mics work in the back? Some of them do, some of them do not, but many of them have very strange connectors. So, like, for instance, this Turner mic right here, I believe, is brand new. It's new old stock in the box, and I got it. I'm sure it works, but the connector is odd. The microphone in front of me is an RE20, and it's got the XLR, the modern mic connector. Like this ribbon mic here, it's got a big long cable on it. And I ran that down behind there. The connector is something archaic. And I'm not an electrician. I'm not going to start messing with them. So I've had people say, why didn't you try doing a show with one or the other? I don't think it'd be that interesting. So I got him for looks. Betty Anderson, any metal detecting going on? I broke the detector out about a couple weeks ago. I haven't found anything good yet this year, but I will. And I probably will. I probably will do a video where I actually set up my cameras and go detecting and videotape what I'm digging, and then I'll splice it together. Mike Geertz, any takers in the commencement speeches? No. Although it probably wouldn't have happened this year anyways, with all the commencements being put off because of the coronavirus. Tiger Stripes, gotta say, I often had lousy service at Radio Shack. Yeah, I don't remember them being terribly helpful because they're trying to cover so many different fields of technology, I guess. The Fuse Man, have a show using each microphone for a segment. Yeah, the problem with that, like I said, is the connectors. Because this connector is an XLR, and this cable runs into the camera, and the camera runs into the web presenter, and the web presenter feeds it through the computer. And so to get that I'm not really sure. Like I said, I'd have to get the XLR at one end and a different plug for each of those mics back there. So RW Please 1, Lato 1 plate is available. Oh, there's probably a variety of those that are, but like I said, I got one. Boycott watch. Ever try magnet fishing? A viewer of this channel sent me a magnet, and he sent me a thing of cable for it. I haven't gotten out with it yet, but I'm going to one of these days. Zebulon Straight. Hello from Southwest Florida. Thank you for checking in. Richard Burke, Steve, will your metal detector fit in your Viper? It would barely fit, but the problem is I get dirty. I physically get dirt on my knees and my hands when I'm metal detecting. So I almost always go metal detecting with my old Explorer. And I've got, in the back section, I've got carpeting I put down specifically. So when I bring my metal detector and it's dirty, I can put it on the carpeting and I can put all my stuff back there. And then when I clean it out, I can take the carpet out and shake it, and then the car stays clean. So I won't be taking my detector anyplace in my Viper. JS ribbon mics need a DC voltage. Yeah, that's going to be one of the other problems. Is not only do I not have the connectors to make them work, but some of them are powered, some of them are not powered. So who knows? Timothy Nossum, greetings from Colorado. Ever pan for gold? No, but I watch all the gold shows. I hate to admit it. I watch Gold Rush. I watch the Bering Sea Gold, and I do like watching those shows. I've never had the opportunity to actually go and do it myself. Steve Brannon, what is magnet fishing? You get a really big industrial magnet, and you put a line on it, good heavy line on it, and you throw it into a river or a lake, and you drag it across the bottom to see if it picks up anything that's iron, and you pull it out. And there have been people who found, guns, safes. There's a guy who found I think it was a hand grenade. Some of the stuff you don't want to find, but you find cool stuff that people have either thrown or dropped into the water, and don't know what you're going to find. That's half the fun, is you might find something cool. Dave Mason, hello from sunny San Diego, California. Thank you for checking in. I believe Dave Mason is also the name of the man who had the song We Just Disagree. Isn't that correct? I had a student in a class, his last name was Egan, E-G-A-N. And I said, oh, like Walter Egan. He goes, huh? I got the song Magnet and Steel, and he goes, what are you talking about? I said, nah, don't worry about it. Oh, boy. Christopher Ritchie, with the looting going on, are people going to get caught in some kind of way? Means videotape. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's going to be one of the more entertaining things to watch, is that there are so many people who are videotaping themselves breaking the law and posting it on the internet. And there's, in fact, I forgot to do the video. I'll do it. I'll put it up maybe next week. There was a young lady in Grand Rapids, Michigan, who committed a bunch of crimes and filmed herself doing it and then posted it on Facebook. I went to her house and they arrested her. Now she's facing a bunch of felonies. So, I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Five minutes ago, I said I won't be eating on camera. I did not disavow drinking on camera, though, however. Like I said, I'm dehydrated. I ran 10 miles this morning. I saw a bald eagle. I saw 2 sandhill cranes. And I actually filmed the sandhill cranes because they make this really cool squawking noise. I no other way to describe it. I posted it on Facebook. So if you're a friend of mine on Facebook, please just go look at my page. 20 or 30-second clip of two sandhill cranes squawking it out in the middle of a field. It's hilarious. And if you're not a friend of my Facebook, please right now go to Facebook, send me a friend request, Steve Latel, you'll find me. 1,800 other people have. Why not you? So there you go. Nancy R., I drink Coca-Cola. I drink Diet Coke quite a bit, but after I run, I've got to drink the Gatorade. What kind of sword is that behind you? Bravo. There's 3 swords behind me. There's a Civil War cavalry saber there and another Civil War cavalry saber there. And that's a World War I naval officer dress sword, a presentation sword. 2 of those 3 swords were lent to me by their owners or the descendants of the people who had them originally. And they said, we'd be honored to have these on your set. And I said, I'd be honored to have them. So the Fuse Man, don't Facebook. Yeah, I'm sorry, not everyone does, but I've got a Facebook that I basically just use to post announcements for this channel. So Jay Felix, the Sandhill Crane video is great. Thank you very much. It's kind of funny. I had my phone with me, and I'm running along, and I see off in the distance. Two Sandhill Cranes. By the way, I'm now getting friend requests. Pretty cool, huh? Confirm. There we go. That's 3 right there. That's 4. Confirm. I know I could do this later, but so look off in the distance. I see 2 Sandhill Cranes. So I took a photograph of them. You have to look in the middle there, and then I realized I was shooting through a space in the trees, and they weren't bothered by my presence. So I hit record and I videotaped them for 30 seconds. And they're just cruising along. And like I said, it's a really unusual sound they make. And if you see them flying, they're spectacular, huge birds. They stand about this tall, and they got like a almost 5-6 foot wingspan. And they're almost always in pairs. I believe they mate for life. And like this was a pair. And I've also seen them where they're nesting, and they'll have, the young one with them, the youngster with them. So I'm fascinated by those birds. Rad 6150. I had a couple of those in my front yard. Those are some big old birds. Yeah, they are. Zach Bauer, did you get your Coke bottles recycled, or are you still in danger? No, something, I donated them. There's a couple different places out there right now that are asking for donations, saying, hey, look, if you want to do something good with your Coke bottles, your returnables in Michigan, 10 cents a piece, you can drop them here or give them here and someone else. So I have not gotten a dime back on my pop bottles in, going back to March, obviously. So Don C., I've got a World War II officer's dagger my grandfather brought back from Germany in World War II. Is it American or German? Fernando, did you have their consent to record them? It's an interesting point, because they were talking at such a volume that I think they weren't even attempting to be private. But Bob Bong, you should give that bald eagle your toupee. I didn't get the joke the first time because you didn't say bald, you said eagle. Oh, boy. Don C., German officers. There you go. Yeah. And that's, a lot of that stuff happened where you got a lot of that stuff came back after the war from both sides, obviously. So let's see how many more requests I've gotten here. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Whoa, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so I just confirmed 14 more friend requests. And like I said before, now go look at the Sandhill Crane footage. So I think it's pretty good. Don C., it has an eagle and a swastika. Yeah, the Germans got a lot of mileage out of both those symbols. And the dagger you're talking about is fairly common in terms of officers carried that. So Rad 6150, Kensington has a lot of cranes near their nature center. Yes, they do. I believe they've also had falcons out there. Falcons or what's the other one? Osprey. I think they had an osprey nesting out there. So, Danny Beaupre is mating for life common law. You know, in the animal kingdom, I think they've got their own rules. So, Song Yardbird, hey, dude. Thanks for checking in. Jose Rodriguez, got to go, Steve. As always, love your show. My phone's blowing up, cutting me off. Have a great sunny day. And to you, my friend. Rad 6150 Osprey. Yeah, the Osprey is what I was thinking of. I remember seeing an article about that. Osprey were more common in this area a long time ago, and they're not that common anymore. So I think they actually built a tower to simulate the kind of place an osprey would nest, and they did something to encourage the osprey there, probably tax incentives or something. And they wound up nesting there successfully. And Kensington, of course, has a couple lakey areas, and osprey are birds that do a lot of fishing. So it's a great place for an osprey to live. So Pete Dahl, how about a lemon law for an electric 4-month-old wheelchair? Any consumer product that comes with a warranty is going to be covered by the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act. But the sad part is I've seen a lot of scams involving especially vehicles that disabled people have bought in an attempt to help them cope with their disability. And so there's a couple companies based in Michigan that were horrible. They take money from people, bring them defective stuff, and then they wouldn't stand behind their products. And there were 2 or 3 of them that another attorney I worked with and we basically sued those guys into bankruptcy a couple times. And it's sad because I get a piece of paper that says they owe us money, but we can't turn that itself into money when they go bankrupt. So Boycott Watch. The Osprey is an ugly but effective aircraft. How effective? I'll agree with you, it's ugly. But the Osprey, of course, is the airplane with the 2 big rotors on it that can be converted, and it can land vertically like a helicopter. And then it takes off, and as it takes off, it can then turn, and it rotates through and then flies. And it can fly very, very fast in its airplane configuration, but then it can land vertically in the style of a helicopter. But it's a very, very complicated and very, very technical thing. Gypsy Salami points out those are V-22 Ospreys, and they've got some in San Diego. But I just know that there was a question about how expensive they are, how complicated they are, and how useful they really are. But you never know. Don C., ladies and gentlemen, and all others, Steve, have a great day. I must go for now. Always love your show and your audience. Thank you for checking in. I appreciate that. We did start around 1 o'clock, so after 2 right now. And we will try very, very hard to do this on Sundays at 1 o'clock from here on out, as long as my schedule permits. So think of that as a regular thing if you weren't already thinking of it that way. Jeff Kester, when can we return bottles and cans? It's going to be a little bit longer. I know that they've talked about that, but it's going to be a nightmare at first. Johnny Knoxville, we had Harriers on my Navy ship. Now, the Hawker Harrier is a very, very cool plane. That's cool. And that's a jet that can take off vertically or, land vertically and then take off like that. And they got some use in the Falkland Islands War in the early 80s. And they're expensive, they're complicated, but they're very, very cool. So, Song Yardbird, hey, Steve, methinks you need a Wikipedia page. I don't think I could get one, at least legitimately, because I know that I've seen Wikipedia pages for people who are just on the internet or on the media. And if they're not done by the person themselves, which is obvious when they are, I've seen some where they tag it and go, this is actually not something appropriate for Wikipedia. And sadly, there was a newscaster in Detroit, a weather guy named Sonny Elliot. The Detroit folks know who I'm talking about. Sonny Elliot. And Sonny Elliot was the weatherman for decades in Detroit. Probably worked every single radio station or TV station. And then in retirement, he worked in radio. And he passed away a couple years ago, but he was a fascinating guy. He was hilarious. And along with everything else, Sonny Elliott was on board, I believe, a B-24, but it may have been a B-17. But he was on board a bomber in World War II, and I believe he got shot down and spent time in a German POW camp. Came back to America, got into radio, then into television, and back into radio. And his life was fascinating. And I remember reading something about him a few years ago, and I actually met him. He's a very, very nice guy. And I remember looking him up on Wikipedia, and there was a Wikipedia entry for Sonny Elliott, and it actually said, it goes, this page appears to be about just a local personality, and as a result of that, it's been basically calendared for deletion or something stupid like that. And I'm like, huh? So, Ram 50 V8 says, Steve, just saw the pics of your new studio. You will want AC in there soon. Well, this is the new studio. And by the way, DSS, hey, Steve, I emailed you and added you on Facebook. You're going to need to include in your email that you talk to me here. Because number one, I can't say your name because the first part of it is a 4-letter word that I can't say out loud. But remind me who you are when you write to me. So yeah, Soupy Sales, Carl's Corner points out. Soupy Sales was the other guy from Detroit, but Soupy Sales got national fame when he went to New York and stuff. But Soupy's from Detroit also. And Mitch Lake, hey Mitch, thanks for checking in, my good buddy from the Houghton Hancock area, who spends his if there's snow on the ground, he's at the ski place. If there ain't no snow on the ground, he's at the golf place. But he points out that Mitch Lake points out that Sonny Elliott did the enga dinga dinga ding thing. And what Sonny would often do is he would combine words, and he would do it so quickly. He'd say, well, it's foggy or raining. We call that fraining, and he was all, and you'd think he'd run out of them, and he wouldn't. He just kept making up more and more words along the way, but it's very, very funny. So yeah, Mitch Lake's the Soupy, Sonny, and the Ghoul. Yeah, Carl's Corner. Soupy was the one who said to the little kids to go get the money from your parents' wallet and mail it to me. RWD, please, says Mount Ripley still has a little snow. What? Does it really? Oh, that's not right. That's not right. LW says, saw a Harrier demo up close. If you cupped your hands over your ears, you could hear the wingtip vents. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I've never seen a Harrier fly in person. I mean, I've seen them documentaries and stuff, but they're cool, and they also have, because of the characteristics. Once they figured out some of the things they could do, they're great in dog fights. Guys coming up behind you, and you can just hop to the side, and just jump around and stuff. DSS says my Christian name is Hunter Callahan. Okay, thank you. Multi-Clojo says the F-35 can do the same as the Harrier. Yeah, but doesn't it cost like $1 trillion? And aren't they like 20 years behind schedule? Tim Y, are you going to do any more Friday kerfuffles? I had a blast doing those. It depends on when I get inspired, but the problem is not many people actually watch them. The videos don't do that well. I think what I'm going to start doing is doing them just maybe like once every couple weeks or something. So the wind fire, how much of a mess is left of the 2 dam breaks there in Michigan? All of it, meaning that I don't think they've got any of it cleaned up yet. I mean, barely. And what we're talking about is 2 dams, one at Sanford, Michigan, and one further upstream. The upstream one burst, and then it overflowed to Sanford, and that one burst. And it basically wiped out the town of Sanford, and it drained 2 man-made lakes. The result of which now is people who used to live on a lake and now just have a big old muddy section out behind their house. Small river still flowing through it. Roads got wiped out, buildings got wiped out, houses got wiped out. And a lot of the streets have been cleaned up. And like the Fierro Museum, for instance, got destroyed. That's been cleaned up. But the dams are gone, and it's unclear what they're going to do about it, because The dams were privately owned, and the state had asked the dams to be brought up to a certain standard. And the owners said, we can't afford to do it. And they're fighting back and forth about it. And so right now, the dams are just blasted and they're gone. And so I presume someone's going to come by and fix the dams, or they're going to have to say, oh, we're just going to leave these people on the lakefront here with just a muddy backyard. And so it's going to be a while before that gets resolved. I don't know. I've been trying to follow it as much as I can, but some of that stuff doesn't come out for a little while. So we'll see what happens. Tigerman 99515 later all. Thank you for checking in. DuPont 550. Oh no, not the Fierro Museum. I did I did a little video where I walked around some Fierros at the Fierro Museum before all this happened, and I posted it right after it happened. And it's the strangest thing. There just happened to be a Fierro Museum right there in Sanford, Michigan. Jim Adams mentions the Skunk Works. I highly recommend a book by Ben Rich. I think it's the guy's name, Ben Rich, about the Skunk Works. Skunk Works brought you, among other things, stealth technology, the SR-71 Blackbird, and the U-2 spy plane. And it just shows you what American technology can do with lots and lots of money thrown at a problem. And we're talking about lots of money thrown at a problem. So JB Wells and Steve, you accentuate your W's when you say what or while. Is that a Michigan thing? I've been accused of having a Midwestern accent, so probably. Want to know about it, Steve? Have you done or will you do a video with some stories about jury voir dire? I think I've done a video about jury selection and talked about voir dire. If you're asking, do you have any funny stories about voir dire? I'm not sure. The only funny stories I've had about voir dire were just once in a while somebody will give a really strange answer to a question. So, for instance, I did a jury trial in Oakland County once, and a young lady, sat down in the box when her name got called, and there's a bunch of people sitting in the jury box, and we only have them by numbers, number 1, number 3, whatever. And this woman was dressed very, let's just say, exotically. A lot of jewelry, big hair. And the other attorney asked her what she did for a living, and she goes, I'm an entertainer. And neither of us asked her what she meant by that because we were scared what the answer was going to be. She didn't get seated, but I forgot who dismissed her. But she was an entertainer. So I also have seen a couple other wacky ones. I was in a jury selection in Macomb County, and that particular court would ask the jurors to fill out a questionnaire before the jury selection, and they'd give the questionnaire answers to the attorneys. So I could stand there and look at somebody and go, oh, according to the questionnaire, you are this old, you live in this town, you do for a living. And it eliminates a lot of the most basic questions and answers. And one of the questions asked on the juror questionnaire, it said, have you ever been involved? How's it phrased? Something to the effect of, have you ever been involved with law enforcement or something like that? And this one guy had written his age, his name, where he lived, and his occupation was engineer. And with respect to the question regarding law enforcement, he said, yes, I once made a citizen's arrest upon seeing a traffic infraction. And again, I don't know which one of us bounced him, but the idea that you're gonna perform a citizen's arrest on somebody is already questionable, no matter how legal you think they are. but he saw someone commit a traffic infraction, and he performed a citizen's arrest, and now he's bragging about it. No, we won't do that. Song Yardbird, can I still get signed copies of your books? Which ones? Right now, I have all of my books available except for two, which is the Timothy Masters Drawn to Injustice, and I also do not have any more copies of the Winged Car books. So I've got the book about the Chrysler Turbine Car. I got the book about the Preston Tucker. I've got Death's Door, Douglas Houghton, Michigan's Columbus. I've got, so I've written 12 books. There's a few more I know I'm missing, but I have pretty much most of them. If you want to know about my books, go to Amazon, type in Steve Laytel. You'll get a whole bunch of hits. And I have, like I said, all of them available from me except for Timothy Masters and the Winged Car book. And by the way, someone pointed this out and said, by the way, Steve, you should actually explain this. If you want to read the Timothy Masters book, it's available as an ebook or a Kindle. I mean, you can get that. You just can't get the hard copy of the book, and I don't have them for sale. But the other ones are available. Mitch Lake points out, Amy Jo, Murder Houses, American Murder Houses. I forgot. Yeah, I wrote a book about American Murder Houses. It's my best-selling book, and I keep forgetting I wrote it. Carmel Olafson, have you ever done jury duty? No, I have not. I've gotten a notice 3 times or 4 times. The only time I got called to actually go to the court, I sat through a voir dire and I got dismissed. And I don't know which side dismissed me because that court wouldn't let you know. Mitch Lake shouts out Death's Door. Thank you very much. Mitch Lake is being modest here. Mitch is a radio host in Hancock, Michigan, which is the town where my family is from. And Mitch has had me on his show at least 3 times and maybe more. And when Death's Door first came out in like 2006 or 7, I forgot what year it came out, I did a little mini tour where I went around the state, promoting it and speaking about it and doing book signings. And Mitch was one of the first people to invite me in and say, come on in, talk about your book. On the morning show, WMPL Hancock, and had a blast. In fact, it's probably when I met Mitch. And I've since gone on there and talked about the Chrysler Turbine Car. I know that. In the Preston Tucker book, I know that. And it's kind of funny because Mitch you have to understand something. There's 2 types of people in radio. There are the people who are the nomads, who are here for a week, they're over here for a little while, they're over here for a little while. They might go across the country and come back, and they're always going different places. Then there's the guys in radio who are fixtures in their community, and they are there. They're always there. You can turn on the radio. That's the voice you're going to hear. And I can't tell you how many times I've been driving through the Copper Country, the Keweenaw Peninsula, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and turned on the radio, and the first voice I hear is Mitch's. And I'm like, yeah, I'm home. Mitch is on the radio. So I don't have a book to promote this summer, but when I'm in the area, I'll swing by and say hi to Mitch. We'll shoot the breeze because I've worked in a radio on and off for many, many years. And so I appreciate everything that the radio guys do. Daniel Kester, speaking of murder houses, what about the Hh Holmes House? Well, the Holmes House, if you're referring to the one in Chicago, where most of the bad stuff happened, is the problem is that it's no longer there. And so my book, American Murder Houses, focuses on houses that were still standing when I wrote the book. So as a result, the Heaven's Gate house is not there. The John Wayne Gacy house is not there. And so there were some homes that got knocked down that I obviously had to write off because I can't do much about a house that's no longer there. Gilded Angels says, great herons, blue herons. Don't know just that they are herons, and a lot of them usually at Sterling State Park. So go there to see them if you want to see some. Herons are very, very cool birds also. In fact, I've got a lot of photographs of great blue herons, but they're often very skittish birds. Hard to get close to them for photographs. Great blue herons often stand about yay tall. They're not actually blue in that sense. They're more gray, but it's that gray that we call blue. It's almost like a blue merle dog coat. But there's herons, and they're wading birds, and you'll see a heron walking through the water very, very slowly, and it'll like pick up one foot and put it down, and it'll do this with its head, and it's looking, and all of a sudden you'll see them, boom, and they'll jab at something and try to get it with their beak, and then they'll take another step, and they walk very slowly through the water like that. But that's a great blue heron. You can also find smaller herons, and so on. So, but the great blues are the big ones. So I've always liked them as well. I like a lot of them birds. Jim Adams, is the alleged Jimmy Hoffa murder house still there? I don't know. You're referring, of course, to the house, Frank. I forgot the guy's last name, but you paint houses, don't you? The one they based the movie off of, says that Jimmy Hoffa was killed in a house in Detroit, and I don't know if he identified the house by street address or not. So DePaul 31 says, saw one on your canoe trip. I forgot about that, but in my video from Sanford, Michigan down to Midland, about 5 minutes in, we saw a great blue heron that was wading along, and he got bummed out because we went by the boat motor, and they've big loping wings, like this when they flap, and he actually went up and landed in a tree and watched us go by. And they can land in trees, but they don't do that very often. They nest in trees, but you're more commonly going to see a blue heron wading around in the shallows of a lake or a river. So JB Wells says bald eagles attack herons. Sad because herons are majestic. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of birds pick on each other. Saw a red-tailed hawk yesterday being attacked by crows. And then later on, you'll see those crows being attacked by robins. So it goes around. DePaul 31, we have great blue herons here in Staten Island parks. Yeah. Jay Felix, do you need an FCC license to work on air in a broadcast studio? Not anymore. In fact, when I first got into radio in 1981, you only needed the broadcast license if you were going to sign the engineer's logbook. So a lot of disc jockeys in small markets are the only person in the building when they're on the air. So there's a transmitter someplace in the building or transmitter readings. And every couple hours, someone's required by law to go look at the reading panel and write down some numbers to indicate that you double checked that your power was okay and your frequency is okay. So if you are, 103.1 on the FM dial, you can't broadcast at 103.2. You get broadcast at 103.1. And so it's, as you can imagine, a fractional thing. So it might be 103.1 something, or 103.99999. And so someone's actually got to double check that. So when I worked in radio, I can think of every station I worked at where the transmitter was and how you read it. And the transmitter tower and the transmitter itself might be miles away, but someplace is a remote station where you can read it at the radio station. And so in those days, if you were going to be signing a logbook to indicate that you took those readings, you were required at that point in time to have an FCC license, but the license did not involve a test. You simply sent your information into the FCC, your name, your address, contact information, you mailed it in, and they stamped it and mailed it back. And for years, I had a set of AKG K240 headphones that I wore on the radio. I still have 3 pairs. In fact, I had a pair up there, but I took them down. Love those headphones. And earliest versions of my videos, I'm wearing headphones. Those are AKGs. And I kept them in the box. And I bring the box into the radio station. I put the headphones in the box and I left. And I had in the box my FCC license, but you don't need it anymore. And in fact, they've deregulated to the point where I'm surprised if radio stations get their meters or their stuff read like once a day, so. JB Weld, Sheeran. Yeah, is it Frank Sheeran? Of course, now I ask you that. Because because Ed Sheeran is the musician, right? But Sheeran is the guy who wrote the book "You Paint Houses." And painting houses is a supposed gangster term for taking care of people. Another euphemism. Oh boy. Mitch Lake, I wrote my exam at the Federal Building on Fort Street in Detroit when I was 16 years old, got my FCC license. Yeah, that's old school, right? You have to actually take a test to get your license. Gilded Angels, how come you don't have WRIF or W4 nostalgic bumper stickers on display? I don't have any. Nobody sent me any. I don't have any. Very good friend of mine is a former disc jockey at, I just confirmed like 10 more requests. Former disc jockey who worked at WLLZ in Detroit, Wheels. And Wheels was a contemporary of WABX. And there was at one point in time 4 album rock stations in Detroit, WRIF, WLLZ, WABX, and W4. Did I get that right? ABX, RIF, LLZ, W4. And when he saw the picture of my ABX sticker, he goes, Steve, where's your wheel sticker? I said, I haven't got one. He goes, I'll get you one. He hasn't got it for me yet. So when he does, we'll do it. Jim Adams, the Jimmy Hoffa House is supposed to be in Bloomfield Hills. That's a suburb of Detroit, yes. I thought it was supposedly in downtown, like actually within city limits of Detroit. I'm kind of surprised, but then again, you never know. Boycott watch. At my radio station, everyone logs plate voltage and effective radiated power at the odd hour. So every other hour. Yeah, and disc jockeys also have got to do the logbook for commercials. So most radio stations have a thing that the disc jockey brings in the studio with them. And it actually lists which commercials get played when, and it'll often be built in with the music rotation. I understand now it's all on computers, but in the old days, so you'd walk in with a stack of paper, and you'd turn to the first hour, and you'd usually indicate that you were there somehow, or you sign it at the bottom. But as you played each commercial, you'd check it off and initial it or something. And they used that paperwork to send to the billing department to make sure that people got billed for the commercials that got played. So. Is there a discussion about possums going on I don't know about? Richard Burke, is the Amityville Horror House in your book? Yes. And it's not because of the Amityville Horror portion of the story, but there was actually the DeFeo murders that took place in that house. And that all plays into where that hoax came from. And so the Amityville Horror House is actually on the cover of my book. And the publisher decided to do that because it's one of the most well-known and obvious images. You see, you go, oh, hey, that's the house in the Amityville horror story. Betty Anderson, has your Bad Axe radio station invited you back? Stop in and say hi. No, I have not spoken to anybody over there in quite some time. I did check, and there's actually, I think, 2 people there I worked with. And there's also at least one other person who I know of, and I'd met back then, who wasn't working there, but is now. I might look into that. I did the guest spot in New York last year. I'm thinking about trying to do some more guest spots in the radio around if I can get anybody who will let me come in and be a guest DJ. Mitch Lake, the commercial logs are legal documents. Yes, that's again for billing purposes. So, sell CNN for $1. Yes, Steve. How many possums are on your property at any given time of night? I haven't seen any possums in a while. I can tell you that it's been a while since I've interacted with a possum up close. And as many of you know, I had 2 dogs, Milo and Wolfie. And Wolfie got skunked a couple times, twice. He did not learn. He was convinced it was a cat. And I came out one day and Wolfie was barking, and he was at the edge of the yard barking at something in the street. So I walked out there and looked, and there's the grass, there's a curb, and there's a street. And Wolfie was on the grass because he would not step on the concrete, barking, barking, barking. And there's just this possum laying there, like 12 inches from his nose. And I walked out there and I looked. My first thought was maybe the possum got hit by a car. And the possum looks perfectly healthy. He's laying there, he's playing possum, literally. And I realized, and I walked up and I poked it with my foot. And it looked at me and opened its eye, kind of like, and I'm like, dude, get out of the road, okay? The dog's not coming after you. Go. And it closes and continued playing. So I poked it with my foot and I started poking it. And finally, it got up and kind of like gave me a dirty look and then it just kind of waddled and went across the road. But this thing, that instinct to play possum is so real that it was going to play possum because it thought there's a dog this close to me. I'm in danger. Danger wasn't coming from Wolfie. Wolfie's just barking at it. But danger is a car's going to come by and run it over. So, Ilya, are you going to get a new dog anytime soon? No, not for the time being. I'm not really doing that. So, the Fuse Man, Mr. Leto, talks to animals all the time. I'm convinced that most animals, even if they don't understand what you're saying, pick up on the tone of your voice. So, Song Yardbird, did you see the documentary Searching for Sugar Man? Yes, I did. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it if you haven't checked it out yet. Searching for Sugar Man, documentary about a guy from Detroit, Sisto Rodriguez. Great musician, great music, and had this weird phenomenon where he was unknown in America, and he was a huge deal in South Africa. And the people of South Africa thought he was dead. And turns out he's living in Detroit. So, JB Weld, possums kill thousands of ticks a year. Don't shoot them. I don't shoot things. Mitch Lake, have you seen the Russian Five? I believe I have. I've seen several movies about the Russians who played for the Red Wings. And there was a point in time where the Detroit Red Wings had 5 Russians, good players. And they always had a strong Russian contingent. And it was actually right around the time of the NHL was starting to drift in that direction, bringing in more European players, even Russian players. And it was a pretty big deal. But yeah, it's if you're into hockey at all, hockey history, it's a fascinating time to study. So, Jim Adams is WLLZ, the Shut Up and Rock station. No, that was the Wall, WLLW, Shut Up and Rock. In fact, I've always got that right here on my desk, Shut Up and Rock, WLLW, of Geneva, New York, right there on the shore of beautiful Lake Seneca. Danny Beaupre, how'd you get the skunk smell out of your dog? It actually was difficult. I picked Wolfie up, carried him into the house, put him down in a bathtub. He was dazed. Normally, getting him into a bathtub would be more effort. Put him in the bathtub, and then I used shampoo and warm water. And the problem simply was that he got hit right here. And so I had to, scrub right here and here without getting soap in his eyes. And I tell you right now, he was so stunned, he didn't care. And you can get most of the smell out using shampoo. I know people talk about, oh no, use tomato juice, use, leprechaun dust. I mean, just shampoo will do it, but you have to do a couple scrubbings. But the problem is literally a week later, I could smell him. You can still smell it. But at least it didn't stink up the whole house like it did. So, Gypsy Salami, Steve Yzerman. Yeah, Steve Yzerman, of course, was the guy from the Red Wings. Everyone knew him. Nice guy. Just, a synonym for the Red Wings. Song Yardbird, tomato juice. Yeah, that's what I've heard a lot of people say that. Problem is most people don't have tomato juice laying around. But shampoo, I tried it and it worked. Jim Adams, are LLZ and WLLW owned by the same company? I don't think so. I think WLLW is owned by a local broadcast company out of New York. LLZ was owned by Doubleday Broadcasting at one point in time, but they've been bought and sold a whole bunch of times at 98.7, and they're not even there anymore. The call letters are now being used on a different frequency in Detroit. So, and Bob Bong points out the car wash near him has a dog wash too. I've seen several of those self-serve dog washes, and yeah, apparently it's a big deal. So there you go. Hey, it's been over an hour and a half. My throat's starting to get a little scratchy. So I'm going to call it a day, but I appreciate everybody who hung out with me for the day. I appreciate that. And we will do it again next Sunday. Think of this as a regular thing now. Sundays at 1:00, we'll do the live streams. I appreciate everybody. Thank you very much. And we will talk shortly. Bye-bye.